Hey guys, I'm Dov, and today I'm back with more Total War Warhammer online action. As you can see, I've taken the Dark Elves today. We are going to be facing up against the Skaven, hence Malekith on his Lizard Limo here. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Lizard Limo. Armor piercing, anti-infantry weapon strength, 120 armor, has okay-ish combat stats, but an 80 charge bonus. Plus it carries Malekith with all his magic and so on. So definitely a very powerful tool against the Skaven. I've also got a Death Hag up on the, what is this thing? Oh, the Cauldron of Blood, that's it. So she's got, you know, the buffs, the nearby physical resistance and so on. Lots of good stuff, as well as being on a chariot with anti-infantry, of course. Not as much of a charge bonus, this is more of a support chariot, but still it can help back up the main line. As you can see over here, we've also got 4 of these Cold One chariots, so these are a really good unit, in my opinion. Armor piercing, anti-infantry weapon strength. They've got a bonus versus infantry of 22, which is pretty significant. 32 armor piercing damage, so very nice there. They don't have great combat stats, but again, they're chariots. They're really meant for charging with a 60 charge bonus. They also carry 48 armor piercing shots with their crossbows. You can see these couple of dudes here on the back with their repeater crossbows. So they have an armor piercing missile attack, so as they charge in and out of formations, you know, they can deal armor piercing damage. And just overall, lots of great utility on these guys. Really good against the Skaven. They're going to be great against the Dawi as well, and even against factions that you wouldn't traditionally think of chariots, you know, like being weak to chariots, like the Empire and a few others. These guys could potentially be very, very good there. We'll have to wait and see, but for the Skaven forces, let's have a look at his build. He's got a front line here of Plague Monks, which are a very nice unit. He's also got a Doom Wheel, which is an interesting choice against the Dark Elves. This thing is pretty cheap for causing terror and, you know, all that jazz. It also has a missile attack that does armor piercing damage. You can't really control it, but of course it is a chariot with armor piercing anti-infantry itself. Against the Dark Elves, it's a bit of a risk because they do have Cold One Spear Riders, or sorry, the Cold One Knights, and you know, some other anti-large units. That being said, typically you won't see a lot of anti-large units against the Skaven just because they, you know, they don't have a whole lot of large units to begin with, just a few. So for the rest of his army, he's got Skaven slaves with some Storm Vermin out here on the flanks, some Gutter Runners, more Storm Vermin and Skaven slaves on this other flank, a Warp Fire Thrower here in the center, which is an interesting pick. I don't know if my opponent was just having fun, but these guys are decent. They're better against low armor factions, which the Dark Elves typically have fairly decent armor. So these guys aren't going to be great here. I probably would have liked to have seen the Poison Wind Globadiers. Those guys have armor piercing and anti-large, you know, glass globes, I guess, but they do a ton of damage and can be very, very useful at taking down large targets like chariots and so on. So would have liked to have seen them instead in this build, but still decent overall. He's also got some Gutter Runners with slings up here in the front, and looks like a Queek Head Taker for the Lord, and a Warlock Engineer as well. So let's go ahead and kick things into full gear here. And my first order is just going to be similar to what you guys have seen me do if you've watched any of my Beastmen versus Dawi replays, where I use the, you know, the Razor Gores and the Razor Gore chariots. Is we come around on both flanks with a chariot squad and kind of blow up the formation, either circle around in front or we can circle around in the back here. And basically what that's going to do is kind of pull his formation apart and, you know, disrupt it severely. So then the Plague Claw Catapult can't be firing on my infantry as much as they advance, and when my infantry do get here, they can just kind of clean up whatever scraps are left. So we're going to go ahead and start the charges in here. You can see the Cold Ones riding in here, sending many, many Storm Vermin and other Skaven flying. Over here on this flank, these Skaven slaves just got absolutely munched, and against the Dark Elves, I would recommend pretty much never bringing Skaven slaves. You can see a very nice Blade Wind coming off here in the center from Malekith. He's getting pretty close on his chariot, wanting to join in on the fun here. So we're going to get him in here, also blowing up this formation. And yeah, against this kind of, I guess, I'm not really sure what to call it. Against this chariot squad, against this kind of tactics, you really need to have some, either like a you know, like Rat Ogres, maybe 3 units of Rat Ogres. A Hell Pit Abomination could potentially help as well. But you can see Malekith now charging in here personally. He's going to be taking some swipes off the side there. Looking very, very cool. Smacking around some of these Skavens, so taking a swipe there. The Chariot's just continuing to rampage around, getting bogged down a little bit, but, you know, as long as they can continue moving, they're going to really not be able to be stopped by any Skaven. And I need to do some testing, but I believe Skaven infantry are the lowest mass infantry in the game. I could be wrong about that, but, you know, Dawi were pretty low mass. You know, you'd think they'd be high mass because of the heavy armor, but they're relatively low mass. But I think the Skaven are even lighter than the Dawi. They really have a hard time pitting down high mass units with just the infantry. That's why you really, really need, you know, Rat Ogres or something else. You can see that Blade Wind came right here and just came right down this line of Skaven. It was perfect, absolutely perfect Blade Wind. Got a ton of kills. Malekith is up to 133 already, so absolutely awesome Blade Wind there. You can see these Cold One Chariots munching on these Plague Monks and so on here. My opponent really just has no answer to this at this point. The Murderous Prowess now being popped. The Corsairs have come up in the center here, and the Doom Wheel really hasn't been overly effective. I think I jumped on it with the Death Hag, and with all my infantry, we're able to kind of take it out. It really was a non-factor, but we're just collapsing on this flank now. These guys are just continuing to ride around and pop some point-blank shots right into these Skaven. This Death Hag on her Cauldron is now in here as well, buffing up all these troops. You can see a very, very bad time for the Skaven. Most of their forces are routing off. Queek has really not been able to do much. He's just one little rat here. He can't pin down all these chariots. And taking some armor-piercing bolts in the back is never fun either. So you can see a general rout going down from the Skaven forces. He's got a few skirmishers left here, but they're going to be able to be caught by Malekith. And Queek's going to get surrounded by these Dread Spears and other infantry and pretty much destroyed. You can see Soul Stealer being dropped on him just to heal up Malekith a little bit here at the end. Just to make sure that nothing takes him out. Oh man, wow, that was a cool animation. I love some of the match combat animations in this game. They look really, really cool. But yeah, Queek is really having a bad time. That Verminous Valor isn't going to help too much against the Chariots. So yeah, now just getting circle beaten a little bit by these Black Ark Corsairs. The Death Hag's in here as well. And the Chariot's just kind of standing on top of him. So Doom Wheel came back in for one last charge, but didn't stay in for too long, and that's going to be all she wrote. So well played to my opponent. I hope you guys enjoyed watching that. Yeah, Chariots against the Skaven. You guys have seen it before with the Tyrannok Chariots, and again here with the Dark Elves. Malekith with those Blade Winds and being on his Chariot racked up 167 kills, which is just amazing. 86, 72, and 85 on these ones. 65 here on all these Cold One Chariots, really performing well. And the Black Ark Corsairs kind of got ransacked a little bit, but they didn't really need to do too much here. The Chariots did most of the work in terms of, you know, taking out my opponent's army. For his build, we kind of talked about it a little bit through the battle, but again, I would cut these Skaven Slaves. They just feed into the Murderous Prowess. There's really no point to bringing these guys against the Dark Elves. The Plague Monks are a decent choice. Same with the Storm Vermin. I'd probably cut the Warpfire Thrower for the Poison Wind Globadiers, and then maybe try and squeeze out some either a Warp Lightning Cannon or maybe 3 units of Rat Ogres, maybe a Hell Pit Abomination. I'd probably cut this Doom Wheel as well. I like this unit a lot, but in this matchup I don't think it's really going to pay off for you. So hope you guys enjoyed watching that. I sure enjoyed playing it. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I'm keeping it coming with more every single day, so stay tuned for more, and we'll see you next time.